St. Paul, The Fan.
Welcome to the State Fair, and welcome to the KFAN booth at Carousel Park, adjacent to the grandstand. I'm Paul Allen. Mr. Nordo is by my side, and we are going to begin festivities with Vikes Bites before we welcome Tatum Everett from Vikings.com to the Great Minnesota Clump together. And it's a beautiful Tuesday here in the neighborhood. Vikes Bites, 3-2 base.
Vikes Bites presented by Stoked Barbecue Pellets. StokedBBQ.com. You got your Traeger, your Pit Boss, your Rectech, Green Mountain, Yoder, whatever the hell you use. If it uses pellets, use Stoked Barbecue Pellets. You can find them all over the place. Northern Fire in Minnetonka, Greg's Meats in Hampton, Von Hansen's location, Smokestack up in Brainerd and Alexandria. How about Anderson Barbecue Supply in Vadnais Heights? The key is they're the best. StokedBBQ.com. PA, it's cut down day.
Yes, sir.
Vikings got to be down to 53 by later this afternoon. I think it's 3 o'clock this afternoon. And we heard about 15 players being waived yesterday. Overall, I would say not notable names as part of this mix, but Tom Pelissero last night, he tweeted, NFL Network guy, that Ross Blacklock and Sheldon Day, both a couple of interior defensive linemen for the Purple, that they have been cut. Mm-hmm. And so we'll start there. You have Dean Lowry, Kyrus Tonga, and Harrison Phillips. Then you have Jonathan Bullard, Jaquelin Roy, the rookie, Asezia Tomawa, that year 1 to year 2 jump that we're hoping for, and TJ Smith in the mix. Were there any surprises to you with either the Blacklock or Sheldon Day names, and how did it shape out for you?
I mean, surprise would be strong. I thought Blacklock had a decent chance to make the team. They traded for him last year with the Houston Texans. And again, surprise would be too strong of a word. But when I looked at the cuts yesterday, one notable name to me not on the list was running back Aaron Dykes. Now, for the Vikings, with Dalvin Cook gone, he's now a Jet playing with Juicy A-Raj. With Alexander Madison and Ty Chandler, along with C.J. Ham, the next spot, as the tailbacks go, could be a cutthroat battle between Aaron Dykes, who got here 2.5 weeks ago, and Kene Nwanwu, who feels like he hasn't played for 2.5 years. So that'll be something for which I'll be looking today.
Dwayne McBride also still on the roster as well. They did, I think it's Abram Smith, the other XFL cat.
Out.
He was waived as part of that 15. I do want to continue. Vikes Bites, presented by Stoked Barbecue Pellets. Kyrus Tonga. So he's flown under the radar, I think, for the most part, which is good for him. I mean,
Big man got twitch.
As an assumed starter. Now, he was a 7th rounder from BYU, so I think he would have played with Jaron Hall, but he was drafted by the Bears in 2021, cut at the end of camp into his second year.
Yeah.
Signed to the Falcons practice squad, poached by the Purple in October.
Poached.
He's only started 4 games, 2 for us, 2 for the Bears 2 years ago. How good is he? What does he do well where this 7th rounder has been able to fly under the radar and solidify himself in the middle of that D-line?
Now, this is not Aaron Donald-esque or John Randall-esque, but when you find somebody like Kyrus Tonga, who also used to play for the Atlanta Falcons, I believe he came in with Chicago and we got him from Atlanta, and you find somebody who has that type of size and that type of twitch to disrupt things in the interior of an offensive line, that's found money. You know, I'd watched back some of these games last year with Kyrus Tonga, and he was getting double teamed later in the season more than I ever thought Kyrus Tonga would be double teamed. So what's key about that is finding pass rushers from the middle without blitzing. And, you know, with the 3-4 hybrid with floaters, we always love that one. They're not going to blitz every single play, believe it or not. So you're going to need guys in the middle who can win, and Kyrus getting you 3 or 4 sacks this year, I mean, that would be absolutely fantastic, and I think he has it in him.
He had a half sack a year ago. Hopefully,
so you're betting the under?
Significant jump there.
If I put the over-under at Kyrus Tonga sacks this year, 1.5, which way are you going?
At this moment, I would have to go under.
Yeah.
However, this is the thing.
What happened to the hashtag faith with Kyrus and the twitch?
Well, this is...
I've seen you on the soccer field. Big guy's got twitch.
This is Flores with the defense. This is sacks by committee. And we know what we need from that interior that we haven't gotten in years, really going back to Tom Johnson, the last notable 3-technique production we got interior wise. So hopefully we get it from Kyrus. I'm glad I got to learn more about Kyrus on a Tuesday at the fair, hanging out with these Rubes and the Meshbesher and Spence Stance.
Well, the sacks by committee, I mean, I just don't envision one guy on the team having 9 or more sacks, and that includes Daniil. So, like, say you get Daniil with 9, say you get Patrick Jones with 7 or 8, then you get DJ Wanham with whatever he's going to have. Harrison Smith feels like it could be a 5 for him, maybe a 4. Byron Murphy, I'd put him on a 3-ish, maybe a 3.5-ish if there was a total set.
What about Davenport? Because Davenport had a half sack all season last year, and it happened to come against, I think it was with Cam Jordan in London against the Vikings.
And I think he has a 7 or a 9 sack season somewhere on the past performances.
Yeah, 9.5 a few years ago,
So he's capable, but we also, with Marcus, there's position change terrorism with which we dealt last year with Daniil and Patrick Jones and some others.
Yeah.
So Davenport, he's part of the outside linebacker group, where he's been a 4-3 defensive end all of his career. So I fully expect there to be an adaptation or an adjustment for Marcus early in the season, and could take a couple of games.
Vikes Bites presented by Stoked Barbecue Pellets. Beautiful Tuesday morning here at the State Fair. It was reported yesterday, PA, and something we've been kind of waiting for, and it's played into everything, right? Dominoes dropping from a financial perspective of contracts that need to be resolved. So we got Kirk, we got TJ, and Daniil got all this extra cash, but he could walk away next year, all of those things. What about JJ? Well, it was reported yesterday that the Vikings are putting a hard effort into signing Justin Jefferson to an extension and get it done before the season begins. Now, Diane,
I saw the Albert Breer report, and and Albert's no longer NFL media, NFL network guy, but he's still a very credible reporter.
Absolutely. And Diana Rossini, we saw her on social media splashing, at least locally, because of some tweets in regard to TJ Hawkinson and relationship or ongoing talks between TJ's representation and the Vikings. But she also tweeted, I believe, that both sides have put their offers down, and now they're mixing, and they're concocting what ultimately should be the highest non-quarterback contract in the league.
Right.
But getting that done, I think, again, dominoes financially for the Purple, that kind of opens up now where we'll be speculating many times throughout this year what a Kirk deal might look like. Can we get TJ some cash and all of those things? So the big one sounds like it might actually get done first.
Yeah, and with Jefferson, okay, everybody wants JJ around. He's the most popular player on the team for fans, and he's incredibly good. Very well could be the best wide receiver in the National Football League. So, of course, I and we would like Justin Jefferson to be part of this team for many years to come. But I'm not backing off the question until I know exactly what the answer is. You can back up the metaphorical Brinks truck for Justin Jefferson and TJ Hawkinson all you want. Who's going to throw him the ball? And I'll just leave it right there. You can take all of this gold and all of this silver and all of these shekels and shove them with these skill guys who you know are very good, and Justin is elite. What about the quarterback spot after this season, the person from whom they'll be catching passes? I don't know who it's going to be.
In that vein, Vikes Bites Stoked Barbecue Pellets, stokedbbq.com, all white oak premium grade pellets from Caledonia, Minnesota. Love you guys.
Love you.
With the wide receivers. Do you have a benchmark in mind for what a good rookie season is statistically for Jordan Addison? You can play he's got to have 5 or more touchdowns.
Yeah.
He's got to have 750 yards receiving, ton of targets, catches, etc.
Mm-hmm.
Is it disappointing if he doesn't outpace KJ by the end of the season? Do you play any of that in your head in terms of first-round pick totally looks the part, but now what does that look like over the totality of a 17-game season, hopefully some playoffs?
That's a wonderful question because it's impossible to pair individuals and be like so-and-so will have more touchdowns than the other.
Yeah.
Because of the coverage.
Well, and every time I play this game, it's like over or under 7 touchdowns for TJ. I end up having Kirk on like 75 TDs right by the time we get down to it.
Yeah,
so.
I mean, Kirk could push 5,000 passing yards this year. I mean, I think he pushed it a little bit last year, but nevertheless, for Addison, the amount of catches, last year you had 3. I believe it was 3 with at least 60.
Yeah.
Jefferson, Hawkinson, and Osborne. Well, will that be the case this year? The team passed 61% of the time last year, which I thought was a little heavy. But I think that number, it'll be close to that number this year. So for Addison, I mean, I can't put him on a 50 catches or 785 yards. I don't know what it's going to be.
Yeah.
But for Jordan, the yards per catch is what's key for me. Is because Jefferson and Hawkinson are going to get attention Jordan's not going to see. So Jordan Addison's yards per catch has to be in the double digits. If you're 9.2, 9.3, I guess we'll take that. But he could be a 10 and 11 and 11 and a half per catch, because the passes he's going to be catching could come on key downs when 18 is tripled and 87 is doubled. So I'm going to put him on 10.5, 11 yards per catch.
I dig that. That's Vikes Bites presented by Stoked Barbecue Pellets each and every day. And today's a biggie as we watch the Vikings whittle their way down to a final 53-man roster on the front end of the 2023 season. StokedBBQ.com, the spot to find those sweet pellets.
And thanks to TimberTech and TimberTech.com. What's on deck 9 to noon includes Michael Russo with Russo Radio at 11 o'clock. He'll be here at the State Fair booth, the KFAN booth at Carousel Park, discussing Wild and much more. At 10 o'clock, Alec Lewis from The Athletic. He covers the Minnesota Wild the Minnesota Vikings in fantastic fashion. Young Alec will be here with us at 10. And when we return, Tatum Everett from the Vikings Entertainment Network and Vikings.com. Maxwell Fuller is guiding the Great Ship Love Covenant from FM 100.3 KFAN. Eric Nordquist produces, and I'm Paul Lau. Full Tuesday. Welcome to the State Fair.
Heart Radio app.
I guess
Tatum Everett with the Vikings Entertainment Network and Vikings.com. At Tatum Everett is where you find her via Twitter. And those of you here in the Mesh, Besher, and Spence fan stands at the KFAN booth at the State Fair, can I get a witness? And a round of applause, please, for Miss Tatum Everett joining us on air, on demand. And these football takes are about ready to be on fire at FM 100.3 KFAN. I was thinking about you last night, and specifically how excited you undoubtedly will be for the home opener, the regular season opener in your camera, and just scooting around the field with the camera and the stick, trying to catch unique scenarios, and just how excited you must be right now.
Yeah, no, it's what you've been waiting for so many months. I feel like you get into this Groundhog Day of training camp, and everything kind of feels the same, and then all of a sudden you have a bittersweet week today with rosters, but you'll get more of a picture of what everyone looks like. Yeah. And then you have a week, because I keep forgetting about this weekend. I've absolutely just forgotten that we have a week in between the preseason and the regular season. I find myself being like, oh, well, on Sunday, and it's not. So I've got to temper my expectations and my excitement, because we do have to wait another week. But nothing but optimism for me as far as it goes, just because last time they were in this position, they came out, not a lot of starters played. We didn't know what this team was going to look like. I still kind of feel like, especially on the defensive side, we don't know what the starters are going to look like. So I don't know. I have a good feeling about this opener.
Well, you mentioned the defense, and I'm glad you went there, because of the unpredictability and deception that absolutely is on the Viking side until they get enough film to feel like they have takes, talkers, and tells. So think about this. A Brian Flores defense that is brand new here and without film versus Baker Mayfield. Yeah. I'm just going to leave it right there. We can't drop that one.
What else do you have to say?
We can't drop that one, can we?
No, and if you do, that's going to be that's not a good sign, right? I mean, I think he's going to be running for his life half the time, honestly. He doesn't sit in the pocket too often. He likes to take risks. He likes to roll out. I have a feeling they've got a lot of good stuff dialed up for him, as well as this Bucs team. Their offensive line's not as good as it was. Yeah. Brady was in charge.
I think that center got hurt again, Ryan Jensen. Yeah, he's out for the year.
Jensen might actually retire now.
Wow.
I think it might be a career-ending bit.
Right.
Dang, yeah. Yeah, so I have a good feeling about this one again. I just think that this defense is going to, especially when you have the element of surprise right now. You have the element of surprise.
I was chatting with somebody yesterday about the Flores defense, and the what I think is going to be key here, because last year this time I had the same tune, but about the Vikings offense, is that unpredictability and deception are on our side with high-end players. Cousins, Jefferson, eventually Hawkinson, Dalvin, and so on. Now, this is, not to make the defense sound like, every position is a land of opportunity, but or barren, but it lacks the Justin Jefferson star appeal. Fair?
That's fair.
Okay, and then even the Cousins very goodish appeal. I mean, Harrison Smith, Byron Murphy maybe, but then you get to Hawkinson and what they had last year with Dalvin. I mean, there were some all-pro-ish type stars on this offense for an offensive coach who had unpredictability and deception on his side, and were hanging 30s and 300 some odd yards on teams left and right. So the conversation I had is with when you don't have that high-end star power, can you still pull off things until teams know what's coming via film? The answer absolutely was yes. But the part that was revealed to me that I hadn't really thought about, and it's a calling card of defenses like this, the farther you get in the season and the more film coaches and players get on this defense, the certain quarterbacks, now not Mahomes, not the highest of the high end, they don't trip on anything, but they will see so much during the course of the week that they get jittery wondering where it's coming from. So they see one formation that looks the exact same 10 times. but different angles are where the blitz is coming from 7 of the 10. So that's like a hidden little advantage I think this defense is going to have as the season moves on, the unpredictability of it. Now, finally, in closing, the same person told me that, there will be times that this defense will miss and there will be 70 yards the wrong way. So don't be surprised when that happens too, but I think they kind of know that's coming too.
Yeah, it's a risk versus reward thing, right? And you mentioned that there's not that many star names. Maybe it's not like this huge, powerful star power lineup, but I think that's the beauty of what Brian Flores does. I don't think he asks for much from a roster standpoint as far as big names. He has the anchors, he has the veterans, but the reason that he has been successful is because of what you just stated. He can pose different looks with guys that maybe aren't top tier, and it comes together because they're playing as a unit. I'm with you, though. I don't want people to get too... don't get too high with the highs and don't get too lows with the lows with this defense, because I do think it's very apparent, just as far as the backups, there will be big plays and that will happen, but we don't need this defense to stop every single drive. We just need them to stop 2 or 3, and this offense will easily keep rolling.
Yeah.
Well, the key, though, and you can say that this isn't a defense that has some of the same star power that the offense has. We certainly just gave Danielle Hunter the type of money that would then predicate we would need him to be one of those stars on defense. And sack stats for a defense don't tell you the entire story, but I think a big aspect of this defense and really the hinge or the leverage point here is pressure on the QB. Last year we saw it in so many instances where they are getting there just a split second late. And so whether it was trying to analyze Daniil's year, he has 10 and a half sacks. I forget exactly what it was, but it was just over double digits. And people are, he's out in coverage too much. Well, then you kind of look back, he actually wasn't out in coverage as much as you would think. It does look weird as hell, but all the same, he's best with his hand in the dirt. So Flores being able to use that pressure, sacks by committee was something that we talked about while you were trying to find a place to park. And the way that we're able to get pressure on the QB, I think we paid Daniil to be a star, and I think the expectation is such that Flores finds a way to make him one.
Well, easily that, and with the duo of Marcus Davenport, I mean, he is a guy that this staff seems to like to take second chances or give guys second chances. I mean, Marcus Davenport is a former first-round draft pick for a reason. He was very good with the Saints at points. Sorry, it's okay.
PA used my water a few minutes ago. Did not screw the cap back on, and
sorry, I got
just
distracted.
poured it all over myself.
Right, maybe I did that purposely.
That was sneaky
for the effect of the of the fair.
Yeah, but I am sorry. I do. There are big power names. We don't want to go without saying that, but I do think the combination of Marcus and Daniil is going to be a really, really important factor. And then sprinkling in a little bit of the safety blitz, like we saw with Jay Ward, which made me very excited.
Are you kidding me with that blitz?
I loved it. I all about that. Well, that's why the safety room is deep, and I think they're going to keep more than you expect.
Yeah, the speed with which he got in there, and how I went back and I watched it a few times, and like he wasn't there just going, here I come. I mean, it was the last second, wow, just zooming in there, and I just wonder the handshake between Jonathan Gannon and Kevin O'Connell on what we're going to be doing here with blitzes and stuff like that. And hopefully that wasn't violated. Kevin wanted to win that game. I'm not saying he was frustrated they didn't win, but when they jumped up 14-0, I mean that's a preseason building. Preseason buildings don't get super loud, but that place was loud after they got a 14-0. You were on the field, you know what I mean? Yeah,
no, it was, but I don't think I think that was the point where they started to pull a lot of the second stringers and do they even use stringers? Second team guys, just because you do have this lead. I mean, I'm not gonna lie to you. I was in the press box at that point, and I was like, man, we're just going to cruise to this for the rest of the game, and then it was just kind of painful.
But I'm curious at some point if maybe they just ran out of bodies. Because, you look at just who was left in the game in the fourth quarter of that preseason game. I mean, you got Andrew Booth coming out there. You have certain names. Mentioned Ross Blacklock, no longer with the team. Sounds like he's going to be part of the cuts, but he gets a sack. He's a former second-round pick playing late in the game. But there were a lot of names, specifically in the secondary, that I wasn't very familiar with on the back end of that one. So the head coach can say, I want to win, but if we left it way too close and maybe just not enough bodies to finish the job.
Yeah, I think there was a safety who had signed that week who played like every snap of defense, So like that's kind of what you're going up against or what you're playing in there. And so that's why I think it makes it really hard to. I feel like even though we have a year of this staff under our belts, I don't know what to expect.
I have an inside baseball type question for you here, inner workings of a job. And I've wondered this since last year.
Okay.
Well, I saw it again this week, and I can't remember who the player was, the alumni you were interviewing on the field. But when you're doing that, the sound in U.S. Bank Stadium is so booming. Like, does it become a distraction? You know what I'm saying? So you're like, I'm here with Carl Eller. You know what I mean?
I mean, it's probably what it
don't get me wrong.
like
You nail it. I watch them. You nail it, and you're happy, and you get it done, and the person responds beautifully.
Yeah.
But like when I take my headphones off and I listen to them, I'm like, wow. I wonder if that distracts her.
I mean, the acoustics aren't great for that.
They're loud.
They're very loud. They do echo. But I mean, I come from a world of like TV where I've had people in my ear talking to me while I'm trying to form sentences. So I think something about my brain just kind of turns that part off and focuses on what I have to say. Because at the end of the day, they're going to post that video on YouTube and it's going to have perfect audio.
Right.
So like I can't mess that up and look stupid.
You host later today. What are we doing later at the Vikings Entertainment Network?
We're going to break down the roster.
Okay.
So that's going to come out right around the time that the official roster is coming out. Gabe, and I are going to talk about the biggest surprise cuts, or if there are any people that have shined this roster season. Just kind of go position by position and talk about really the guys that have just jumped off the page for you. So we're going to do that a little later today, and that'll drop right after it gets announced.
And speaking of the VEN, how about Paige Yeager?
Oh my gosh! Right?
Saturday singing the Star Spangled Banner.
What a star!
I mean, Vikings Entertainment Network. She started a few years ago. St. Cloud State University. She started with us at Canterbury Park, working a camera, and then doing some production, and then went to the Vikings Entertainment Network. Salt of the earth human being, just a wonderful kind of quiet human being. And with Paige, I mean, I've known her for at least 5 or 6 years. I had no idea she could sing.
Oh yeah, that girl can sing. She does
not only
theater
really
in Wayzata and Plymouth for a very long time. And
wow.
Always knew she could sing like that. And she sang a couple of times. She sang at a rugby game at TCO Stadium. She sang a couple events there. But I think it was one of those like largest crowd ever.
Not nervous a lick.
So nervous.
Was she?
So nervous.
I couldn't tell.
Yes, I know. She nailed it.
Yeah.
And
I mean, she's doing like Luciano Pavarotti opening the arms, like, oh, wow.
Well, she knows she could sing, so that's helpful. It's if you're not nervous about hitting the notes, you just know you're going to hit them. That's helpful. So she just killed it.
Super proud of that. Paige Yeager.
That was a big moment.
Great job.
I was in tears.
It's kind of an awkward situation, whether it's for you or it's Gabe, where you do some of these interviews, these TV bits, and a ton of content for Vikings.com. So you can't necessarily get loud and say, I think Kirk Cousins is going to get cut, and then you got to do like a feature with him. That could be an interesting situation. But as PA and I and others will think, hey, we're getting down to 53. You're doing this show later today to break it down. How much do you play that game of, back when Zimmer was the head coach, the defense would always get more than the offense. Now O'Connell's in charge. Do we keep the 3 running backs and a fullback? Do we keep a 6 wide receiver? How much of that game do you play as we get closer to a day like today?
Yeah, I mean, I have to play the game because I'm already stacked the rundown, So I have to kind of, we do manipulate the graphics afterwards, but we have to kind of make those guesses as well. We don't really get too much of the inside information. I mean, we will get the roster before it gets released, but we don't have any necessary like yesterday we got everything right.
Yeah.
Like I haven't seen the final at all, and so I think you kind of make assumptions, and I think part of it is not so much like we're gonna talk negatively or positively about anyone. It's more like, okay, so if they kept 6 safeties on the roster, what does that mean? If they have the 3 running backs and a fullback, what does that mean? If Kene has to go on IR, like, do they pick someone up? Like, there's a lot of like goes into that. And then I think it's really important to remember too that like just because you see a name on the cut list, like the 15 players yesterday, doesn't mean they're not going to be back in the building on the practice squad. And the practice squad is 16 players. It's going to be a lot of the same names. So you see a lot of the same faces back in there. So despite losing 37, I think that was correct. Then you get your 16 back. So and it's a lot of the same guys. Like I would expect. I mean, for one, I thought Josh Sokol was going to be a bubble guy, and I think he could be practice squad.
He may have been close,
May have been close.
And
I was surprised they traded Vidarian Lowe. I mean, I'm not, we're not talking about Walter Jones reincarnate, but Kwesi drafted him. From all accounts, he was okay. From what I saw in these joint practices, not like I exactly know what I'm looking for when it comes to making the team, but for sure, Vidarian Lowe was better than last year, and they traded him for a 6th-round pick, I believe.
Yep.
Well, okay, I mean he's not going to start unless somebody gets hurt, and he's probably not even going to be active a fair amount of the times. But nevertheless, it was kind of an initial indicator to me with Kwesi, because just either working with or following general managers for as long as we have. It's them parting with their draft picks, specifically their first crop, ain't the easiest thing in the world.
I'm sure it wasn't.
You know what I mean? And pride like gets in the way sometimes too, where you got like 4 people going, well, how do I phrase this to my boss? This guy can't play, so what are we going to do? Where they kind of, not Vidarian, but just a player in particular, and the general manager will be like, well, now let's wait another year. And that wasn't the case with Vidarian. They traded him. That surprised me a little.
And I think you have to weigh it against what you can get at the time too. I mean, Kwesi's I don't think he really loves to just waive people. He wants to get something back, right? Yeah. So you look at that situation, and if they do keep him another year with what they think is someone that will not fit into the team, then maybe they're not going to get anything out of it. And so if you make the move now, you get that draft pick. You now have 8 picks in the 2024 draft, and that's obviously gold at this point. Then you can start really wheeling and dealing when you have that mass amount of picks. So I think he's playing the long game here and in the big picture.
Tatum Everett, Vikings.com, Vikings Entertainment Network, does fantastic work at the VEN, working with a second to none staff. Just a fantastic group at the VEN, putting stuff out at Vikings.com. Just from a cursory standpoint, what do you like about this year's squad? I mean, it's 13 last year, hanging a lot of points. Defense is clearly had problems. A coordinator got fired at the end of the season. And then special teams, Matt Daniels had that thing squared away last year. Brandon Powell's going to be your punt returner. Kick returner yet to be determined. I'd bet Aaron Dykes if he makes the squad, and I think he's going to make the squad, or I would bet it that way. Then you got Joseph Wright and Sir Poe, as Matt Daniels calls him. Overall, the squad, what do you like?
I just like the consistency. I think that's been a little bit lacking as far as personnel or coordinators or things like that in the last few years. When you look ahead, before this coaching staff, and so just the consistency for this offense. A lot of offensive line looks the same. Kirk is comfortable in this system. It's a second year for him. It's just like that shouldn't be taken for granted, I guess you could say. The defense obviously has a little bit of inconsistency, but I think the one thing for me that really, I don't know what it was about this training camp, but I felt like there were so many young, talented players that maybe had so much more potential than I had seen in other camps. Like there are names I know that will be on the list today that I'm like, dang, I really thought that could be a good fit at some point, or maybe this is not the right time. And so for me, it was like the consistency, but also the ability to find this talent that just fits in. Yeah. Maybe it's just because I've been with the team a little bit longer, but I just felt like these young guys in particular were just so much more talented than I had seen in the past.
And I've seen enough, when it comes to the Vikings defense, and I'm not going to predict, where they're going to rank yards given up per game, top 15, top 20, top 10, or whatever. It's in those joint practices, whether it was a dedicated 10 consecutive plays to stop Derrick Henry and how they handled that, specifically Ivan Pace Jr., or it's X amount of dedicated plays covering DeAndre Hopkins, or with that Arizona bunch that we just saw, dedicated plays offensively, putting certain players in compromising positions and just killing them. I mean, Jordan Addison and Johnny Munt, they destroyed the Cardinals that are secondary type Cardinals. So you got Budda Baker and maybe whatever corner they love most. Well, 3, 4, 5, and 6 covering players really have problems. So it's defensively specifically, I saw enough to know it will be better. I know during the totality of the season, it's going to be better. I'm really beginning to think it's going to be dramatically better in certain areas that I just can't identify right now,
Yeah, I know. I agree with you.
Flores has them so squared away, ma'am.
I don't get too ahead of myself in these things. There have been so many times when I've been at a camp, covering another team or this team, and I'm like, oh man, they're going to be so good. And then it's just like, whoa, what happened, right? So I don't want to get too ahead of myself. Yeah. I'm a little bit of that's just my
I know what you mean.
Type in general, but yeah, no, I think you made all of the right moves to try and improve, and you just hope that pays the dividends, right?
So, Byron Murphy's a lot better than I ever thought he was.
Yeah, and the young, they're going for youth, they're going for speed at every position in the defense, and I think that's huge. I mean, I just feel like this is such a big picture staff. They just look at years down the line and looking at that kind of stuff.
Yep.
So.
Could you play that game where a Byron Murphy at this stage of his career better than a Patrick Peterson a year ago? Can you play that game at all in terms of some of those new faces?
More athletic, absolutely more athletic because he's younger. I mean, Pat was Tatum knows more about Patrick Peterson than me from the Louisiana State University days, but he was a 4.2-ish guy, high 4.3, low 4.3. I mean, Patrick, let's not forget Patrick's first season or first 2 seasons. I think he had 5 punt return touchdowns or 4.
He had a bunch, yeah.
Right. I mean, he was a superstar for X amount of years. Byron never has been a superstar. I don't know if he will be. But they played different games where Patrick is the prototypical be opposite you man coverage, sticky as bleep, you ain't getting by him.
Yeah.
Byron hits you a different way and covers a different way. So, that's a great question. Because Patrick never went inside on nickel, where Byron will. So therefore, it makes it difficult for me to answer.
Well, and the reason I bring that up because I still look at this defense as being better, if for no other reason than the scheme and some of the things that Flores will do with the talent that he has on the team. They haven't even done it down in the regular season. They're already thinking, well, what if Brian Flores leaves after the season? So let's at least see Tampa and go from there. Yeah. But that for me, and I am with you 100% on the consistency of the coaching staff, the familiarity there, and keeping even, Mike Smith and some of these other guys around defensively as well for Flores kind of helps create that link. But still, for me, I think the scheme on its own is why we could have a conversation as to this defense improving in 2023.
Yeah, and I think Byron Murphy just fits what he's looking for in a corner as far as that man coverage. And Patrick is... To me, the reason he's been in this league for so long is just his ability to work smarter and not harder. He just has this football IQ that is probably the most impressive that I have seen in my years of doing this.
LSU Tiger, of course, right?
I mean, yeah, but
Jaquelin Roy, Aaron Donald.
What, Aaron Donald?
I'm playing.
Oh.
No, Jaquelin Roy will be the next Aaron Donald.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Let me frame that up.
Jay Ward, the next Honey Badger.
Okay. Yeah, right. Hey, he that was a Honey Badger play the other day.
Yeah, that kind of was.
You can't dispute Ward.
I think he did that to Marcus Mariota at one point in time.
Ward never had a chance to do that all preseason. He was given one chance, came through like Honey Badger, right?
Yeah.
Can't dispute it.
Can't dispute it.
Tatum Everett, Vikings.com, Vikings Entertainment Network. Another segment with Tatum discussing Vikings football and much more on
KFAN, The Fan.
Corey Cove will be your celebrity dealer at the Treasure Island booth at the Minnesota State Fair on Thursday, August 31st. That's this Thursday at 10 a.m. For more info, head to KFAN.com, keyword events.
Everett, Vikings.com, and the Vikings Entertainment Network. Big day for Tatum today and the Minnesota Vikings by 3 o'clock Central. Your 53-man roster for the division champions and your practice squad will be set. And at Vikings.com, you will see a presentation put together with Tatum hosting, yours truly, and Gabe Henderson, who was here yesterday. We will be the analysts for the roster breakdown. And later this evening, with Ahmad Hicks, Ron Johnson, and Don Mitchell, Tatum Everett will be on Channel 9. So it's and KFAN right now. What a multimedia day it is for Tatum Everett. Holy cow.
It's like something's happening today.
I know.
Who'd have thought? I just wanted to come to the fair twice in one day. That's all.
That's a weird question to ask a woman, but what
Has that stopped you before? Sorry.
Actually, it has. What's the eating situation going to be like later? It's
I
the
don't
state
know yet.
fair.
I guess I have to eat dinner here tonight, right? Because it'll be like a 6:30 show. So I don't know. I don't shy away from the fried food. No more wedding diet. So YOLO. I don't know. Fried pickles.
YOLO.
Cheese curds. I don't know. Something like that.
So what is the state fair like down Louisiana way? Because I put a little time into this yesterday, and I'm like, Louisiana State Fair. No, it's State Fair of Louisiana is technically what it's called.
Okay.
It's also, first, have you been?
No.
It's Shreveport? Does that sound right?
Shreveport?
I think it's in Shreveport.
I lived in Shreveport for 5.5 years, and I don't remember a state fair.
You're not from Bossier City?
No.
Oh, my fault.
No.
But I think I'm pretty sure it's late October to mid-November.
That sounds right.
Yeah.
That sounds right. That's like optimal weather down south. Like right now, it's too hot. You don't want to go outside.
So you don't have, of course you don't. You've never been there. Have you heard rumors or whispers? Any idea what the quality cuisine, which may not be the right way to put it, kind of an oxymoron for a state fair, but the favored foods at the State Fair of Louisiana? Any idea?
I don't.
Crocodile on a stick?
I would say it'd be like fried gator.
Yeah, fried gator.
Maybe like some crawfish etouffee. I'm sure they have gumbo.
What about poutine?
That's not. I don't think that's
not a
there.
thing.
No, that's not down there. No.
Right.
No.
Well, so the way that we do weird stuff, there's probably gator something here at the fair.
Probably. Yeah.
Would they do, because they have that down there more accessible?
Yeah.
Would they do like tater tot hot dish, or they would have mild salsa down at the State Fair of Louisiana to get a taste of the Midwest?
No. Yeah, I don't think so. There's no taste of the Midwest.
There's a no salt added booth.
Yeah, I don't know about that. No, I don't think so. I think it's your standard state fair stuff. I mean, I've been to the Texas State Fair, and that was a whole experience. I had a fried Oreo, which was great.
Yeah. I bet you the barbecue competition or the barbecue scene at that fair, off the charts.
I'm sure. The day that I went, we didn't eat barbecue. It was a very long time ago.
Really?
This is what I love about this is that like everyone is all in on the fair here. Like it's not like that where I was in Louisiana.
Well, they got some livestock shows down there.
Yeah.
That's going to be interesting.
They do.
Get to see the cows, maybe.
Are you looking it up?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, I looked up. I spent 8 minutes yesterday wasting my life reading about the most boring fair in the history of fairs ever to bore. I'm not kidding you. That fair sucks.
No,
I didn't want to say that.
They might pay you to go.
Because Louisiana, Tatum.
They do festivals better than they do their state fairs. So
right.
That's what we'll go. Because, they've got the French Quarter Fest and the Po' Boy Festival. A Po' Boy. You know what a Po' Boy is, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so they have the Po' Boy Festival. They have.
What goes into a Po' Boy?
Fest.
Like shredded beef?
Anything you want. Like fried seafood.
Yeah, right.
Oysters, shrimp, crawfish.
That sounds pretty
roast
good.
Beef.
What about frog legs?
I don't hate frog legs. I just don't choose frogs. I bet they're at the State Fair of Louisiana.
But they seriously, the age-old joke with certain foods is taste like chicken.
Well, it really does, though.
Frog legs taste like chicken.
It really does.
Because I had a fair amount of those when I lived in the Washington D.C. area.
Yeah.
It's like a big delicacy.
Is it really?
That my mom would take us to Chesapeake Bay Seafood House, where you pay one price. And this is back in the late 70s. You start at the bottom with the frog legs.
Okay.
Get yourselves all the way up to the spiced shrimp. It wasn't a super ballyhoo type establishment because you had to peel the shrimp and take off the tail, do a little deveining at the end.
You don't want to put in the work?
Well, not well. I mean,
So that means you don't want to peel crawfish then, because people say that's way too much work for very little reward.
I was 10, 11, and 12, so I didn't want to put in the work. If I did put in the work, I probably would have done it incorrectly. But the old deveining of the shrimp trick, after Mom had just paid $18.99 for this thing. Yeah, I took umbrage with it. Excuse me if I'm wrong.
You know, with the cafeteria this summer, we have a lot of guys from the South on the team, and the cafeteria that Mike, one of the guys, he boiled crawfish for the first time for everyone.
Yep.
And the looks that I had at my table of like friends from work who have never seen crawfish like that before while I was peeling it was quite funny, because they were looking at me like,
Really?
"What are you doing?
You peel
looks
it
like you're doing like you're."
But don't you snap it?
Yeah, in half, and then you devate it, you take the shell off, all the stuff you were talking about.
Right. So,
but they were just like, "What are you doing?"
Well, like in the crustacean family.
Yeah.
Like, what's the hierarchy? I mean, lobster's king. You got shrimp as the princes and paupers.
Growing up, though.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I do. I like shrimp personally.
Right, but
and crawfish.
Yeah, where's the crawfish?
Where's
I think
the
that's
crawfish?
A great question.
It's like the Joker of the crustacean.
I think crawfish is a very social thing. Like peeling crawfish and boiling crawfish is like a social thing.
You've done a few boils over the course of time, right?
A ton. Yeah, you pick the crawfish, you drink your beer, you just hang out with your friends and family, and that's kind of like what.
Because they're easy to eat, right?
Like the red and white checkerboard cloth that you just throw everything on and then throw it in the garbage.
Now they have tables with like built-in trash cans, so you just throw it into the trash can.
Oh, that's
okay. So would a boil or some of the side pieces with this, would they be like corn on the cob cut in half?
Yep.
And
potatoes.
like little potato. Oh wow, God, that sounds good. Holy
so start
cow.
to finish, from crawfish.
You should have a booth here. You
to
crush.
feasting.
I know.
How much time does it take to manipulate one of these things? We're cracking, we're peeling, we're deveining. I just want to eat something.
Yeah.
Well, that's what all the other fixins are for, right? Like that's what the sausage and corn and potatoes are for. It's going to fill you up.
Yeah.
Because the crawfish ain't going to fill you up. So you just kind of pick them, and probably takes me like a minute to get through one. No, like 30 seconds.
Yeah. With the Vikings Entertainment Network here in closing, what's fresh, new, and exciting with the VEN? Like what new stuff or projects or whatever excite you for the season of content that's right around the corner?
Yeah, I think it's really exciting season for us as a VEN in general. Like we've got a lot going on as far as bringing you a lot of the coverage from you guys. The film room is making its return. X's and O's is back, which is wonderful. We'll do a player interview every week again for Fox 9, which is always my favorite highlight of the week, where I can sit down and get to know a player a little bit better.
Yeah. What about the Audible?
We have a new show coming out.
Cool.
It's basically going to be like a best of the week thing, which I think is kind of exciting because I feel like sometimes, different audiences watch your content on different platforms. And I think this is going to bring the TV watchers a chance to see what the Vikings Entertainment Network does.
Right. So you mean
all over
Twitter or X, Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, like different
maybe you may have missed something.
Yeah.
Right?
If you missed it,
it's like an in case you missed it thing. So Gabe and I will host that every week. And so that to me is kind of thrilling, because we have so many talented people on staff. I'm really excited to be able to shine the light on other things that they do.
Yeah, that's really cool. You do a great job.
Why, thank you.
Appreciate
it.
Tatum Everett, ladies and gentlemen, a round of applause, please.
Guys.
And again, don't forget later, Vikings.com, I don't know, probably 3:01, something like that, 3:01 p.m., 3:05 p.m. At Vikings.com, there will be a roster release breakdown that drops. Tatum Henderson will do some analysis. Tatum will also analyze the roster. And then watch her later tonight, 6:30, with Don Mitchell, Ron Johnson, and Ahmad Hicks on Fox 9. When we return, Alec Lewis from The Athletic. He's going to get hardcore with us on the Minnesota Vikings cuts and roster and season to be. When we return to the State Fair, it is KFAN.